So we're not going to talk about Labour's recent by-election win in Strengford in Greater Manchester. I believe it is. Hopefully I've got that right. But yes, that by-election win, to be honest, the swing was what was expected. It was a very, very comfortable Labour win. Then, of course, one thing that a lot of people are pointing out is, of course, the turnout. The turnout was only about 25% turned out to, vote in that by-election. However, some of the things that I sort of noticed and sort of other people are picking up on as well is the fact that the people who did not turn up were, of course, the Tories. Now, we've made it a very key point before to point out that Conservatives and especially Tory voters are like 80% likely to turn out to go and vote. However, going back really since the start of Partygate, since you can really start to, shall we say, chart the true fall of the Conservative Party's change in polls, that number has been dropping. And it even was happening before that. If you remember the Cheshire and Amersham by-election, those two dramatic Liberal Democrat wins in sort of the blue wall, that was not only because you had Conservatives switching over to the Lib Dems, but also Conservatives not turning out to vote. So that is something that we must take certainly into account, because this is now getting to a point where if you live in one of these blue wall seats and you've been for years going, well, I'm not going to go out and vote because it's a blue wall seat or whatever. Given the fact that we are seeing this trend, you need to make sure at the next general election you go out and vote. Because I'll tell you what, it looks like, according to the polls, according to the data, Conservatives aren't turning out to vote. So potentially at the next general election, it will be key to get people out to vote, especially the non-Tory voters, and regardless of whatever party. So get out and vote at the next general election, because especially if you are in one of these sort of blue wall safe seats, because as we were saying, there's a lot of information, indications that Tories aren't turning out to vote, which should certainly be sending massive shockwaves in towards the Tory party, certainly. So bear that in mind going into the general election, guys, because I know a lot of you, just to me in the past, have said, well, I don't bother voting, whatever, because I live in a blue wall seat. It's, it's impossible for us to win. Not looking at the data going forward is saying something very, very interesting that you've got to pay attention to. So bear that in mind, guys. So we're going to go into something else that's happening and some other interesting data information that I think is also quite interesting to go over as well. So before we go diving into that data, though, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. There is also the one-off donation link called the YouTube thank you button as well down below. And of course, there's the Pony Club as well. You can join to help support the channel. And as always, thank you very much to everyone who does help and support the channel. So over we go today with The Independent, with the title of Tory support collapses in seaside towns as Sunak is warned of Labour red wave. Now, why is this important that's happening in these areas? Well, most of these coastal areas, not only very heavily did they support Brexit, but they also heavily supported Johnson in 2019 as well. So the fact that these areas that are, again, blue sort of, Tory supporting areas, and this collapse is happening is very, very interesting. Very interesting. But what this means in sort of a grand general election sense, we will only know, of course, until, the general election has happened and the results are in, and we're able to look at sort of the data and the numbers and who's voted where and what. But anyway, on with this. So The strong support for the Conservatives in seaside towns has collapsed, new research has found, as Rishi Sunak is warned of a red wave on the coast. A new study by YouGov and the Fabian Society has revealed a major slump in Tory support, since 51% of voters in the quote seawall seats backed Boris in the 2019. Support for Rishi Sunak's party is now just 32%. This is a 19.4, with Labour now ahead in the seaside seats on 38%. Saying, the tide has now turned in the Tory-dominated seawall, said the Fabian Society Ben Cooper, who said that Keir Starmer should be aiming to make sure that a red wave becomes a tsunami at the general election. Researchers looked at a group of 108 coastal constituencies in England and Wales, with a deprivation higher than the national average, and many voters saying that they had felt left behind by Westminster. Despite Mr. Johnson's successful capitalising on that resentment, a clear majority of voters in coastal town now believe the Tory party does not understand people in their local area nor share their values, according to Mr. Cooper. The senior researcher said that the Labour now had a 22-point lead in 54 of the especially important seaside seats, 24 of which they must hold and 30 identified as winnable marginals. Labour is now on a path towards a broad national mandate at the next election. Coastal towns are often overlooked, but they will be a key part of Labour's election-winning coalition, he said. Warning against complacency, Mr. Cooper said that Labour still has to work hard to secure these votes in these key coastal towns at the next election. And as we've said before, these, poll numbers are good, but Starmer has to make sure he is offering, that he is giving them something to vote for. That House of Lords reform, that is something people can vote for, because the reform of that into sort of a House of regional representation and, done by PR, that's the interesting point. That is the interesting point, and Starmer has to get in on that. He really, really, really does, because as I've said it before, potentially this is the best time to get this Lords reform through. So anyway, we'll continue it. So the demographics of the seawall constituencies still pose a major challenge to Labour. They have a large proportion of voters over 55 and non-graduates, voters who have moved away from the party in recent elections. The Fabian said that the party should appeal to the financial security, the stability and family to appeal to voters in the seaside constituencies, many of which by a large majority voted to leave leave the EU during the Brexit referendum. Many people in coastal towns told pollsters that their area is now worse off on the affordability of housing and opportunities for young people, as well as healthcare and access to public transport. Again, I keep on saying this. Public transport is a massive, massive vote winner. So there should be a massive push, and I mean a massive push by Labour to really improve not only just the rail network, but local transport as well. There's so much it could do, and be a big vote winner if it got the right and good public transport policy in place. It could be a massive vote winner for them. So Labour needs a unifying one nation platform and must address specific concerns in coastal towns, said Mr. Cooper. The good news is it can do that without losing ground in other marginal seats across the country. So the findings come as a major study by the Savanta on the electoral calculus forecast that Labour would win 482 seats and the Tories just 69 in a massive 340-seat majority. Jeebus. This is the polls are continuously saying just how big a majority this is going to be. It is, and this is why, by the way, this is why there are a lot of people out there, they're saying, I'm not going to vote for Keir Starmer, etc., or leaving the Labour Party. This is why you have to get in now. If you get in now and you back left candidates, you elect left people with a left-leaning view, you get them to support left-leaning ideas, progressive ideas. it can be a massive win and a massive push towards like progressive ideas and progressive agendas here in the UK. Do not just abandon, the party. You've got to keep active. You've got to keep pressure on these people. Don't just give up, as we've seen so many people done, just because, oh, it's Keir Starmer. You've got to keep fighting for these ideas, or else nothing happens. The Tories would lose all seats north of Lincolnshire, including Mr. Sunak's own Richmond constituency in Yorkshire, if current polling was replicated at the election. Labour is up 3 on 48%. The Tories are down 5 on 28%, and the Lib Dems are up at 1 at 11% with the latest Savanta polling intention survey. It would mean that the Tories are facing almost a total wipeout in red wall seats in the north of England and the Midlands, while losing plenty of blue wall seats in the south to the Lib Dems, and according to detailed new analysis of the new poll findings. I mean, that's just the seawall that we're talking about. That's what it would look like. That's a massive change, Like I say, guys, we cannot let this opportunity slip by us. And this is why I always said, guys, don't leave the Labour Party, stay in it, keep on pushing for, left policies and progressive policies. And if they go, well, that's a bit too socialist for us, then take a few steps back, find compromises that you can make. And and get these progressive ideas in. It is entirely possible for us to do that. You just have to be able to do it and engage. And it's frustrating so many times. But yeah, but as it makes a point out, we must say that just because the polls are headed in our direction doesn't mean we should be complacent or lazy. Certainly, that's what happened to Theresa May, of course, in 2017, and well, look what happened to her. So there are some good stuff. There is really some good stuff. I'm looking forward to when the Labour manifesto comes out. Like I say, as I've said before, when that comes out, we will do a complete cover to cover of it, going through all the policies and analysis of it. Like I say, I'm certainly looking forward to it. So. As always, guys, like I say, yeah, have a good one. And of course, we'll see you very soon. And of course, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, we'll see you all next time.